Hi there, Dr. Joseph Martin. Our topic for now is androgyny, spiritual and psychological wholeness for our times. I'm going to go through 5 different elements of how we can look at this from different sciences. First of all, from the science of the soul and spirituality, true spirit, then from an historical, philosophical, mythological sense from the ancient Greeks, and then from an anthropological point of view, and then from a current contemporary issues around sex roles and gender issues and changes that are going on, and finally from Jungian depth psychology. So let's start at the beginning then. So the science of the soul. This is a true spiritual science. It's been around forever. And we know from our studies, particularly as anthropologists and cross-cultural world religion specialists, that in fact the soul is always deemed to be in culture and in our imaginations as androgynous. That is, the soul is 100% masculine and 100% feminine, united as one in the heart and in the experience. Now, many people don't experience this, and that's the point of this topic and our discussion today, and many further videos on this important aspect and experience of becoming, remembering to become spiritual and psychological androgyne. Now, you have had millions of lives on the earth, as the Buddha has said. You know, we have millions of human incarnations, and over your lifetimes, you can actually statistically calibrate how many of them were in a male body and how many of them were in a female body. And perhaps after all this time, you're aware that there's somewhat of a balance of the same number of male body lives and female body lives. Now, however, remember, I'm not really strictly speaking about biology here. In fact, I'm not. I'm not speaking about hermaphrodites or hermaphroditism or any other aspects that have to do with our biology, although that's a very important topic. That's not what we're interested in here. It's spiritual and psychological. So let's go back to Plato and his book, The Symposium. This is the historical, philosophical, mythological, imaginative area of the ancient Greeks who brought us so much enlightenment to our dark times on the planet about 2,500 years ago. Plato, as you know, was one of the greatest philosophers not only of ancient times, but of all times. And we still read Plato in our philosophical discourses in university and elsewhere. This small little book, The Symposium, which I read in my first philosophy undergraduate degree, has Plato giving Aristophanes a soliloquy about the nature of human sexuality, in which he says that there are actually 3 genders we know from ancient times that come down to us as primordial archetypes to our ancient Greeks at this time. All the males came from the sun, all the female beings came from the earth, and all the androgynes came from the moon. Now, this is ancient Greek philosophy and mythology. And when we say the ancient androgynes from the moon, we mean these were beings that had 2 genders in one physical, biological body. They had 2 heads, 4 arms, 4 legs, and they had the genitalia of both the males, the full male, and the genitalia of the full female. Very interesting. Typically, they were shown back to back with their spines joined. So the male's facing one way and the female's facing another way. Well, now in the imagination of all our cosmologies and creation mythologies, and this is part of the Greek creation mythology, we see here the reality of the soul science. I've already just mentioned that the soul, in fact, is androgynous, and here we have the Greeks actually putting in the central to their aspect of what it means to be human as being androgenically, spiritually, psychologically, and even biologically. At some point, perhaps in ancient times, we did have this kind of physical form on the planet Earth. Now, as we move to anthropology about all of this, My specialty as a social cultural anthropologist at the University of Toronto was looking for all the various different kinds and numbers of genders in all the indigenous tribes and peoples of the world, both in ancient times and in modern times. And there are many indigenous tribes that have more than two genders, which is all we seem to have on the planet in the Western world now. For instance, there are many First Nations on Turtle Island in North America who have what we call bird ash. It was very common among the Plains Indians of most recent times. In fact, still today, we have some men, women who call themselves two-spirited, who actually take on the full role, even though they may be in a male body. They also are a male person in the way they act in the community and culture, but they take on the full role of the female as well. They're an accepted third gender, and usually they have the highest status and prestige in the community or the nation because they have multiple roles. Not only can men marry men and women marry women, but they're usually and typically the medicine men and medicine women who have the ability to do visionary dreaming and healing for all the people. That's simply one example of hundreds of anthropological cases worldwide, from New Guinea to New Britain and New Ireland to Africa, the New Era, and so on and on and on and on, many, many times in the ancient times and certainly still today. In fact, I believe that the one tribe we found had 7 genders, not just 2. So that's anthropology. Now, if we move up to more recent social cultural anthropology, I used to teach sex roles and gender identity at the University of Toronto and at the University of Guelph in the 1980s and 90s. Sorry, just actually it was the 80s. I'd moved on by then. Now, what's interesting about this is we're finding lots of changes in sex roles and gender identity in the world, not just in the Western culture, but in tribal cultures, indigenous cultures, people of all colors and backgrounds and religions and so on. There's an emerging consciousness for some kind of unique individual identity in terms of sex roles and gender identity. Now, I want to be very clear here that it's not really speaking about, when I mention psychological androgyny, I'm not really talking about your sexual orientation. It's not the fact whether you're gay or lesbian or bisexual or transvestite or transsexual. That's not what I'm talking about. Nor am I talking about you being straight. It goes beyond that. It's much deeper. It's much more true to, unique to our individual and collective identity on a psychological depth place and also on a spiritual place. Now, with the fact that many gays and lesbians, like women and people of color around the world, are gaining their freedom and can even marry, say, in Canada and in certain states in America, in certain countries in Europe and so on, there are over 2 or 3 dozen now countries who allow gay and lesbian marriage and lifestyle. It may be the case, psychologically speaking, that gays and lesbians, because they're a little more out of the box and a little more open-hearted or minded about embracing their sexuality, that they may be more open to being more masculine in terms of their feelings and personality and sense of self, and also as well embrace more of their feminine sides. Whether or not it's quite equal yet, we're not sure. But I want to be very clear that whether you're gay or straight, I feel it's a good idea for women to break the glass ceiling in business, but not at the expense of giving up your true feminine nature and beingness. And likewise for gays and so on. While it's important to be able to express all your feminine sides for gay men, say in particular, I'm just using an example here, that, not at the expense of giving up your true masculine nature and your own masculine beingness by trying to, in a kind of just socially acceptable role of being effeminate or being a metrosexual or something like that. Although that can be fun and that's playful, we can embrace all of that and no judgment, and people can enjoy that and have fun. At a deeper level, I'm speaking of something much more rooted in our psyche and our collective and our spirituality. So, having said all this, I think we can move now to what does it mean to be 100% masculine and 100% feminine. Well, these masculine values, attributes, qualities, characteristics are something you can embrace whether you're male, whether you're female, whether you're gay, or whether you're straight. And what are the male characteristics? Well, they are, I'm going to go through them all. I think it's just important enough to kind of go through them all in a way. So we cover them all. You're focused on your body and the health of your body, your importance of the mind and developing your mental skills. You're also focused on creation. Being masculine is being a very creative kind of a person. And it's a creative act to be masculine. Action in itself, of any kind, whether mental action or physical action or sports, is a very engaging kind of activity. Remember, it has nothing to do with your biology or your orientation. These are just values or characteristics of your psyche. Power, the need to use your power, be your power, and I mean this in a good way, not power over, but power with, power of enjoying the power of your own true nature. Doingness is very much a part of it. That's the activity side of it. Fitness, fitness of the mind, of the soul, of the body. This is important. The ancient Greeks knew this, and that's their masculine value and worldview and ethos. And the sexual prowess, in the sense not of like power over again, no, it's not that, but the sacredness of sexuality as a male being and the sharingness and the joy of that. This is something a lot of men need to get into more and more. I've just finished writing 2 books on masculinity, and the first one is about getting beyond the masks of masculinity into a deepening, intimate, psychological, spiritual truth about finding your true identity as a true man. And then I wrote another book on fathers and sons. Also for male, qualities and characteristics are social and financial kind of awareness and stability and setting goals for yourself in the outer world. This is all part of what a masculine side of you, whether you're a man or a woman, gay or straight, can do to get moving in the outer world. So again, masculine is very much about the external, the outer, and maybe in a way even more the, what's the word I'm looking for here? The sense of being more extroverted, I guess is what I was looking for here. Now, on the other hand, you want to harmonize and balance these with all the feminine qualities. And what are the feminine qualities? Well, they're the qualities of beingness, receptivity, feeling, emotion, intuition, the physical body as a kind of a vessel of spirit and soul, and the ability to reflect and meditate and be more quiet, more inward, more introverted in a way. These are all qualities of being. The capacity to just experience deep stillness and joy inside yourself with doing nothing and being. It's about being. So you already see that the dualities of the oppositional complementarity between the masculine and feminine. And it goes with the seasons, it goes with the cycles of the day and the night and the evening and the morning. All these are like cycles of the feminine running through us at night typically, and the stillness and the activity and the dreaming and the visioning and the intuitions, and the activity of the morning when the sun comes back, and the external activities and creating something new for a new day. These are what we're finding now. People want to experience all of this in a very deep way in their own daily life, as well as their weekly, monthly, and yearly and full life. And to embrace that fullness of 100% masculine when I choose to be activating those sides of my masculine nature, and 100% feminine when I choose to be in charge and I need to relax or unwind or meditate or be receptive or be listening or be quiet. This is all important. I'll leave you with a little story here. I was in the store the other day, and I know all the different people at the checkout counters at the market, and one of them she said to me, well, how are you doing? I'm doing great. I'm always great. She said, I know that. She said, well, how's your other 50% doing? And I always get stunned when somebody says that. It's a colloquial expression. I go like, I didn't tell her this, but I said to myself, I don't want to be half a person. I want to have half a life. I don't want to have half a mind, half a heart, half a body. I'm 100% masculine and 100% feminine. That's how I choose to be, what I've grown to be. You can do the same. You'll love it. It's the way of the future. We all can be this, and we need to be this. It's the way of the 21st century. More on this in the future. Lots of videos and new information and processes, methodologies, and techniques about how to be fully spiritually and psychologically androgynous, 100% masculine energies, 100% feminine energies. All unity, all love, all blessings. Till the next time, Dr. Joseph Martin, in, out, and onwards.